Good evening. Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a regular session of the Mayor and Council, City of Bisbee, County of Cochise, in the state of Arizona. It's being held on Tuesday, July 5th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the council chambers. Roll call.
Councilmember Juanetta Hill.
Present.
Councilmember Joni Giacomino.
Here.
Councilmember Frank Davis is excused. Mayor Ken Budge.
Here.
Councilmember Leslie Johns.
Here.
Councilmember Mel Saweed.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Anna Klein.
Here.
City staff Stephen Pocken, City Manager, Ashley Coronado, City Clerk, Joelle Landers, Personnel Director, Logan Dodd, Operations Manager, Albert E. Chavez, Police Chief, Joe Estes, City Attorney.
Thank you, everybody. Well, tonight for a moment of silence, I don't know how many times I'm going to have to do this. Have another shooting in Highland Park on the 4th of July. It's just unbelievable that we're celebrating our nation, and this comes about. We've now up to over 300 in less than half a year. So I know prayers seem to be getting old, but not to the people that were affected by this. 7 that were killed and 40 some odd that were injured. So let's take a moment. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, just to help things move along and not to hold anybody up, without objection from the council, I'm just going to change the order of business. I'm going to do the call to the public before I do any announcements or proclamations. So we have one person signed up. Nolan.
Hello, my name is Nolan. I'm here to talk to you about Prop 419, which will be on your ballot this August. Just to clarify, it's also called home rule option, but it may not be that on your ballot because this organization right here has a habit of trying to trick voters. But it's also called the alternate expenditure limitation. So just know that Prop 419 is the same thing as the home rule option and the alternative expenditure limitation. I'm advocating that everyone vote no on Prop 419, the alternate expenditure limitation. The reason I'm encouraging everyone to vote no is because for many years, the city government has been run into the ground by self-obsessed politicians. So much so that the city is now a sinking ship that needs to be abandoned. Most of the city's budget is spent on the police. Very little is spent on the community development. Bisbee PD's former second in command, Christopher Joey Long, got into an altercation with an officer in Phoenix. This is his mugshot right here. He's no longer with us, thanks to a good decision by our city manager. Unfortunately, the problem here in Bisbee is much larger than any one person, and there's nobody that's going to be able to fix it. After BPD attacked me for videotaping them, I watched as they constructed a completely bogus investigation. It went almost over 700 pages, and it was 700 pages of nonsense, designed as a last-ditch effort to criminalize me for videoing. My point is that BPD has a problem history with corruption. In conclusion, I would like to advocate for everybody to vote no on 419 in August. I think that the city has run itself into the ground. I'm sorry, the clock is not working exactly.
48 seconds.
Yeah, but it just said 11 seconds.
Thank you. So for tonight, for no real proclamations, but we do have an announcement for retirement. And I'd like to present that award now.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I am recognizing Chief Albert E. Chavez's retirement from the Bisbee Police Department. After serving 4 years in the United States Air Force, Albert E. Chavez began his service to the city of Bisbee as a communications officer in 1998. He completed the police academy in 1999, was assigned detective in 2003, sergeant in 2009, staff sergeant in 2014, and chief of police in 2015. The city of Bisbee and the Bisbee Police Department are grateful to Chief Achave, his wife, and family for 24 years of service and dedication.
If I could just say a few words. Thank you. Thank you, Joelle. Thank you, everybody. Well, I wasn't expecting this today, and I just want to say that it has been my honor and my privilege to serve the city for the time that I have. I will continue to love and be happy here, and I thank you for the recognition. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Mayor, we'd like a picture. Oh, you can all scrunch in if you would like.
You got your handcuffs?
I'm not coming yet.
Come on, come on. We're tall. We'll sit here in the back.
Okay,
here we go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let Joelle go first. So look at Joelle.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, pick.
Okay, now you can look this way, and you really need to put a smile on. I prefer it over the alternative. Thank you.
Thank you. Lay it all on the field.
I know I was not going to say that, but just an kid. I know she just gave that.
All right. I think I'll skip my announcement for now.
No, keep us in suspense.
Well, there's been accusations that were brought up at a future call to the public that this is information only, and I just want to let people know that it's not that the city's hiding anything as far as using city resources to affect the legislation. It is state code. It's 500.14. And I'm gonna just quickly, it's a big, long situation, but just for the purpose that has anything to do with us, it says the use of city or town resources to influence elections, and this deals with the civil penalties and definitions and so on. And under A, it says a city or town shall not use its resources, including the use of, and it has a lot of things, but also facilities and buildings or any other thing of value of the city or town for the purpose of influencing the outcome of elections. And then under definitions, number 2 is influencing the outcome of elections means supporting or opposing again, another long list, but budget or override election in any manner that is not impartial or neutral. So that's the rule that we're, as the city, are living by. At least I am as the mayor and the rest of the council. All right, moving on. We're gonna do general business. First thing is accounts payable. Have a motion.
I move that we pay accounts payable in the amount of $353,446.13.
My second.
Have a motion and a second to pay accounts payable. Have questions?
Page 8. The never-ending question. Grassy Park restrooms, $464. Yeah, I know it's initially $200, but what would it cost it to go that high? You have
Okay.
guys water?
We are still as mystified as you are.
Oh, okay.
We actually closed down Grassy Park Water for a week so that we could monitor the flow coming through the meter, the water company's meter. And while the restrooms were shut down, the meter did not move, it didn't budge 1 gallon. Okay, so I know there was a lot of speculation that we had a leak in the restrooms. So now, of course, this time of year, we're also doing a lot of irrigation, so that's part of the impact, we know that. You know, when it's $300, it's still a mystery as to how that happens, because everything that runs from that meter for consumption, when we cut it off, there was no movement in the meter at all. So we're using the water somehow.
Just curious, it just seemed high.
It does. I agree.
Okay. No, that's,
Yeah, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mel.
Just on page 10, account 2577, Bisbee Mining and Historical Shared Employee, and we have two lines, one for March, one for May. Can you tell us what these 4 shared employees?
Yes, the one for May was the final payment for the part-time employee that we had contracted with at the Mining and Historical Museum. That contract has expired, I believe, I mentioned that to you a couple months ago. And so this was the final payment for that particular contract. You won't see that again.
Okay, so this is just a one-time, it's not done.
That's correct.
Okay, that's good.
Anything else?
Well, just on another note, one of those employees is continuing to be employed by us, but has moved over to the mine tool.
So that will be on the payroll now, when that's.
That will be on the payroll now, yeah.
I have one more question, but I don't know if I'm looking at the fuel and on page 1, that will be the first line. It just my concern is how will this go into the budget in July, and the prices being at what they are. Are you guys going to be making some adjustment to see how we can deal with because this is just for a couple of weeks. I'm assuming this is for all the fuel usage and diesel. So you have unleaded $59.68, and diesel you have $3,005.29. So I just want an overall idea of where we're going with this and how will this affect the budget next year.
Well, of course, now, these numbers are last year's budgets now.
Okay.
Okay, because it was a.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying. Go into the budget
So-
because now we're in July now.
And basically, these are bulk shipments of fuel going to the fuel farm.
Okay.
So, all of the fuel being dispensed now is being dispensed from the fuel farm into the city cars and trucks. So, you will see these and maybe an occasional card purchase if someone is out of town on business and has to buy fuel. But they should never have to buy fuel in town anymore since we're doing this. So, and quite frankly, this is not a horrendous amount for filling basically the tank. And I know before the tanks were filled this particular time around, they had gotten pretty low, so that's a lot of fuel going in. So You know, we have a budgeted figure for next year. We're gonna go with that. We're gonna monitor it just like we always do
Okay.
and see where it goes.
All right.
I would say in a year from now.
Hey, Mel, can I ask a real quick question?
Sure,
It
go
has to
ahead.
do with the gas.
Yeah.
So when you buy like that, doesn't it give it to us at a much less amount per gallon?
Yeah, I can't tell you what that is off the top of my head because it varies just like the pump price does.
Yeah.
But if you're interested, we can get the price per gallon for the bulk rate.
Okay.
It basically approximates the wholesale price.
Okay.
And probably that's what, about 10, 15 cents? I don't think it's that much because of the prices being so high, so probably this is,
Yeah, it's not huge, and then of course what you're seeing on the accounts payable is also sale at the wholesale price. So there's, unlike the retailers, you don't go profit.
And it just went below $100 a barrel today.
we keep hoping.
We'll do what we can do. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve accounts payable in the amount of $354,446.13. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Councilmember Giacomino,
Aye.
Councilmember Johns,
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein,
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye, motion passes 6-0. We're moving on to item number 2 is the approval of the consent agenda. Items A through C, we have approval of the minutes, a special liquor license for the Warren Ballpark, and a also approval of a facility and right-of-way use permit for the Bisbee Arts Commission Festival. Anybody want anything cool? I'm gonna ask point of order here. If we want to waive fees, should we pull this and vote on it separately, then make a motion?
Well, technically, the request,
Is in there.
it's in there, so if you approve the consent agenda, you approve the waiver.
It's been asked, and that's why I didn't know if we have to make a special motion. Okay. Then I have nothing to pull. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as shown?
I move, Leslie, go ahead. Oh, that's part of you.
I move to approve the consent agenda items A through C. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items A through C as on the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair says the ayes have it, so moved. We'll move on to old business. This will be items 3, 4, 5, and 6. These are discussion and possible approval of applications for extension of premise patio permits submitted by Electric Brewing. I know we asked for them to come this time and maybe talk to us or answer any questions so that we could come to a good outcome on this. I'm going to basically bring item 3 up and then it will basically fall through for the rest of them. So I'm gonna open that up for discussion. Anybody on the council like to make a comment or ask questions, or would?
We would like to present ourselves.
Sure, come on up first then.
Each of us have put together something.
Try to keep it in your 3 minutes each, but if you need longer, I can give it to you.
Hi. Should I talk in here?
Yes,
Yeah,
please
just
identify
State
yourself.
your name and.
I'm Natalie Frederickson, one of the owners of Electric Brewing. I would like to thank the mayor and the city council for inviting us here to listen to what we have to say. And to those of you who have been to the brewery to visit us, thank you. We opened Electric Brewing in the beginning of the pandemic, and to say it hasn't been a struggle would be untrue, but to us, Electric Brewing is more than just a way of making a living. Though the tap room is currently our biggest source of revenue, and music days are a good portion of that, we feel it is important to keep alive the legacy of the first microbrewery in the state of Arizona. We aren't the oldest part of town, but San Jose has a rich history, and the brewery we own is a part of that. The idea for a live music event came after we realized that we've been open for nearly a year. We wanted to do something for our customers to show our appreciation for their support. Our tap room is rather limited in space, so we plan to have the music outdoors, much the way that Electric Dave used to when he ran the brewery. Electric Dave was famous for his outdoor events. We hosted 4 local bands and a food truck, and the response was terrific. At the time, we hadn't planned reoccurring events, but the day was a surprising boost to our bottom line, and so many people came up to thank us for holding the event. Something in our part of town, they said, where there's not much happening, for having something that is really more for the locals and families to have something to do on a Sunday afternoon, a place to go that has parking and is away from the craziness of Old Bisbee. While it is generally a boost to sales, we have sometimes lost money or only broke even on some Sundays, but consistency is important, and if people know that we have music on every Sunday, they're more likely to remember to attend. Everything seemed to be going along pretty well until a complaint was made to the City Council. When we received the letter regarding the noise ordinance, we still had 2 outdoor events approved, and so we went ahead with some changes. On Saturday nights, we've been holding karaoke on the sidewalk out front. I discussed the situation with the entertainer, and we agreed to move this indoors. On June 19th, I informed the musicians of the complaint and asked them to please turn their speakers toward the building. Several times while the music was playing, we walked out into the parking lot and across the highway to ensure that the music was not louder than a normal conversational level. Sure that we had complied with the city ordinance, we were surprised to hear the next Tuesday that there had been another complaint and that the City Council had tabled our request for expansion of premises for several Sundays in July. Our intention was never to bother anyone, but to provide a fun experience for the residents of Bisbee, and we hope that we will be allowed to continue. 3 minutes.
Go.
I didn't do it on purpose.
Next.
Hello, my name is Winston Fredrickson. I am one of the owners of Electric Brewing 2. It seems like there's a couple of different things that we have issues with. So one is the city code says that the sound may not be louder than average conversational level, but it's a little hard for us to enforce that if we don't know exactly what average conversational level is. Is there some sort of number we could put on the sound intensity that we could measure using like a meter? Another question is, where is the property line that we're using in this case? Would it be the property line of Electric Brewing, or would it be the property line of the parking lot, which is owned by the San Jose Square Association? Or would it be someplace in between, such as the 60 feet from the curb that we are approved to sell beer in for the day? Then the other thing is whether or not this permit is intended to be used regularly, like every weekend or every other weekend. We're not actually applying for like a special event permit to block off a highway or to make a lot of noise. We're applying for a permit to sell beer in a section of the parking lot. The Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control requires us to submit these forms if we're going to do that. For each specific day that we want to do that, we have to submit it to the city and then also to the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control. We did talk to the department in emails, and they confirmed to us that there's no limit on the number of days in a year we can apply for this. And I do have the rule, if you're interested in seeing a copy of the rule from the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control. And if you have any questions, you can talk to me later. Thank you.
Well, my name is Joe Fredrickson, and of course, I am another one of the owners of the business. Let's see, one thing that I want to point out, first of all, is that we kept, you know, our neighborhood and our neighbors in mind when we started having these events. We decided to have them not in the evening, not on Fridays and Saturday nights, not on weeknights. We decided to have them on Sunday afternoons. We also, you know, now I'm lost. Okay, we have, well, I've got a little bit of history here. A few months ago, I received a phone call from a neighbor to the brewery. She was angry about the music being too loud. Well, I understood that, and I tried to speak to her and reason with her, but she would not reason with me. I think her anger was getting in the way. I was diplomatic with her, and I said, please, come visit us at the brewery. We can discuss it, and we can, you know, come to something that would satisfy her. She never came. You know, we have been trying to keep the music low since then because, well, you know, you don't want to, pardon the phrase, but piss off your neighbors. So anyway, you know, we never heard anything more until, of course, we got the letter with the last approvals that we had. And when we got the letter, though it's been argued that we haven't done anything, we did. We did something that weekend, and I would like to point out that Anna Klein, you said that you would come past, you drove around, and you said that it did not seem too loud. That was at a council meeting, I do believe, was it 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago? I forget which.
4 weeks ago.
Okay. We've actually made it quieter since you went.
Did you turn the speakers back towards the building?
We turned the speakers back toward the building, and I know that you had mentioned that it didn't seem like we did anything.
What I saw was the picture of the performers with their speakers right here going out into the parking lot, so that's.
Those were monitors. There were other speakers that they had, and the speakers were tilted toward the building.
But what I'm saying is those were still, the speakers that were right by their feet and the.
Did you come to the event?
If I
Yeah,
might.
I did.
Can I add something, because
Yeah,
I'm not sure what day that was that you saw a picture. We
it was
didn't-
when Keith was there. Keith Dennis was playing.
We asked them to turn they were not turned completely forward towards themselves, but they were not turned towards the highway, they were turned towards our building. As you pointed out, it's a U.
So it was actually, it wasn't pointing towards your business, it was pointed out towards
It
the other.
was pointed towards the veterinarian's
Yeah,
office,
that's
I
what
would
I
say.
thought. Okay.
Oh, thank you for saying that,
Yeah.
because I would also
I
like to
agree with
address
that.
something else that Anna Klein said, which is that she was concerned that Kim Perkins or Travis and Michelle, who have the laundromat, would have a problem with it. Well, just to let you know, Travis comes and sells hot dogs oftentimes at our events. Travis owns the laundromat next door. Travis is all for it. He actually gets better business on Sundays because of it. And then when it comes to Kim Perkins, I discussed this with Kim last summer before we held our first event, and then I went and talked to him today to reiterate it, and he said, just, if you spare the windows, could you clean them for me? Well, I'm happy to do that. We did, also, the other reason we decided to do this on Sundays is nobody else in the complex is open. So we don't have to worry about upsetting our neighbors in San Jose Square. You know, we did take steps to make this work out. So, all right, the last time we had an event, because, you know, visual and audio are totally different things. We actually turned the band about 20, 30 degrees toward the building, toward the audience still, but toward the building. I went out and got a decibel meter. I went first to the edge of the property, and when I say the edge of the property, because I am one of the owners of the San Jose Square Association, I believe that our property ends at the parking lot, because we do own a percentage of the parking lot. So I went to the end of the parking lot, and 65 decibels approximately from the music.
That's out to the road then?
That's before the road. Actually, it's just past the sign, because according to the,
That's what I meant, out to the edge of the parking next to.
no, actually, it's not even out to the edge of the parking lot, because according to the maps that we have looked into, the actual property line is about 30 feet in from, actually, Dr. Perkins's sign. It's just past the large sign that, that's been there for 50 years. Anyway, I went across the street, it was 60 decibels. While the traffic was as high as 85 decibels. You know, according to the CDC, I think you might have made mention of that, 60 decibels is what they say. And I also looked around, Yale University says that it's actually 65, but of course, whose measure should we use? Anyway, we are in compliance. We continue to monitor the sound. I have a decibel meter. I will continue to monitor the sound. When we went out without the decibel meter, we just listened to hear if it was louder than a conversation. And it was not the last, few times we've had events. Anyway, is there anything else that I needed to say? Oh, there was a suggestion that we move the brewery. I don't know about you, but I don't have tens of thousands of dollars in my pocket.
I don't know where that suggestion came from.
Actually, I think you said it at the last
I
meeting.
never said move it. I'm sorry, sir, you need to correct that. What I made mention of was that maybe this would be part of, looks like this is becoming part of the business. That
Oh,
was
no,
not-
I had heard that as well.
Anyway.
I'm not gonna argue it.
Please don't.
Okay. Anyway, like I say, we're trying to have these events to be friendly to our community, not to upset it. And we have a lot of people in San Jose, on both sides of Highway 92 that come to our events. At the last event, I went across the street while I was listening with the decibel meter. I talked to a gentleman who was sitting out front and enjoying a beer and the music from across the highway. And I think he would have probably preferred that we played it louder. So, we are trying, it is our intention to comply. It has always been our intention to be a good neighbor. I don't know if I have anything else to say.
We might have some questions or two, if you just hang on.
Sure.
When we open this up for discussion. I guess you must have gotten the email that I sent out to somebody that supported you, because you wouldn't know anything about the EPA unless that's what I mentioned in my email. So
Right.
they're passing that on to, excuse me, so let me finish. They're passing that on to you, so I thought I would bring this up and pass it on to everybody.
Okay.
So under the EPA regulations, it is normal conversation is 60 decibels. And of course, it says any noise above 70 over a prolonged period can start to damage your hearing. Loud noises above 120. Now, the point they want to make here is there's transient noise as a car goes by, and there's continuous noise. And there's a big, huge difference between those two as far as any kind of what sound levels, what they consider to be safe. And so anything over 55 decibels for 8 hours, of course you don't play for 8 hours, but is definitely another problem. And then they say, it's not the loudness of the sound, actually it's the continuous use, so it's becoming not so much that it hurts your hearing, it just becomes annoyance. So that's it's here, you can look it up on the EPA, and just so that, that's what I was basing mine on. And so, I know you're taking liberty by saying your parking lot goes, because I measured your parking lot, it's 200 feet from the front of your building out to where the sign is, where the animal sign is. That's 200 feet. Our code says 100 feet from the property line to where the noise is made. If you're starting to measure from that point, I think we're stretching the idea behind the code. The code is from the 100 feet from the front of your building. Now, I have a decibel meter on my cell phone. You can just put an app on there. I was there, I took it 100 feet from your building and was way over 60 decibels, just so you know. So I have done my research, I did do that, and that's what I'd like you to comply with, is 100 feet from your actual building. So you come in with this code, then that would be reasonable to me, 60 decibels at 100 feet, not 100 feet from the edge of your parking lot, which is almost all the way to the highway. I'm not asking for comment, okay, I'm just asking you can stay there if we have questions. I'm addressing the council right now and telling you what I've done and what I feel would be a reasonable way to make this happen. And that would be mostly to make sure all speakers are turned back towards you. If that means setting the stage out in the parking lot and pushing it back, that's fine, whatever that would take. But that's what our code calls for, and that's what I would be asking myself, is my opinion. Now I'll open it up for other discussions. Somebody else. Go ahead.
So I just got someone popping up on Facebook who lives on Santa Cruz that says they hear it all the way over on Santa Cruz, which is 2 streets back, and they don't appreciate it. And you made the comment that you're just staying in the what's the word you used? With how Electric Day used to do his celebrations and such, you're trying to stay with the element or whatever it was you said. I used to go to Electric Days. The difference between where you are and where Electric Day used to have them is Electric Day was in the middle of South Bisbee with about 10 houses, and everybody in the neighborhood went, obviously. You know, there wasn't the surrounding neighborhood. You also had them where the old fire station is. So, I mean, there are people that are complaining, and they're complaining to all the members of the council, not just the ward in which you guys are residing. And, you know, so it's coming across. One woman posted standing in her living room and could hear the music being played in your establishment, which was, and she lives across the street. So, I mean, there are people that are not appreciative of the fact of what's going on. So, and that, you know, that's where the complaints are coming from. And I granted, it may not be everybody in your neighborhood, but there are some people that are not happy, and they're not comfortable with the fact that their Sundays are being disturbed. You know, the musicians are great, I have nothing against your musicians, but the fact that the way the music is being projected is interfering with other people's Sundays. And I think that is the big issue. Relocating the projection of your sound could alleviate the problem immensely.
Good.
So when you're correct, when I did go check, you know, I went in front, I went to the side, I went behind, and you could hear the music, but in my opinion, it wasn't excessive. And I'm glad you're doing things on Sunday in our neighborhood. It's just kind of you know, it's nice to have something to go to, you know, without going up to Old Bisbee or out of town or whatever. It's nice to have something in the neighborhood. But after the second complaint, and that's the incident that she's talking about, you know, we were all sent this video, and it was loud in their living room. So that is a concern. That is a concern for that neighbor and maybe some others. I did go back up a couple of weeks, well, right after we got that other complaint, and I pulled into the front there where the sign is, and it was loud that day. Now, like I said the time before, it wasn't. So I don't know if it's depending on who your entertainment is as to, so maybe that might be one of the solutions there is, some are complying and some aren't. And I do understand that, some of the neighbors can be upset, but, as far as hearing it on Santa Cruz Drive, I think it's probably a stretch, because it's quite a ways back, so, and I hadn't heard that complaint, I hadn't, gotten anything on that.
She was supposed to.
Oh, did she? Oh, well, I don't do that, so. But anyway, so, it might be an issue sometimes and not other times. The one concern I do have is when I was up there last, the big portion of the parking lot that you had roped off. I don't know, I don't know if that was, because I know when we gave the okay for the extension of premises, it was the sidewalk. And as long as, and I know that, the owners of the laundry were okay with it, so. That's actually not correct according to the map that we provide with each request.
60 feet.
60 feet from the sidewalk in each direction is what we have asked for. We haven't always used that much space. Well, that's what I'm saying, that's the only concern I have is taking that big portion, and you're right, businesses are closed. But, that was just my concern, the sidewalk, as long as, and I know, like I said, I know that the, people from the laundry were okay, and we hadn't gotten anything from Dr. Perkins. So that was my concern, but if he's okay with it, using the area in front of his place and that area, I don't have an issue.
Does anybody notice, do you have any animals that reside there over the weekend?
Yeah, he does. He just started.
We had some, I heard them this morning while I was making beer. Actually, I heard it this afternoon while I was making beer too.
Yeah, I wondered on Sunday what the animals think about it. Yes.
Well,
Go ahead.
I went up and I walked around and listened to them. I live up the hill from Dr. Drury, and I don't hear them in the evening. So, I've heard, I don't know, they'll be much, 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 much louder. And I was surprised initially that the complaint about the sound. Now, if that's on the other side of 92, they don't have the building blocking the sound coming over. So up the hill, I can barely hear the sound from the musicians. And I went down and I talked with people that had come from Warren and various other places to just listen to the music. So thank you very much for providing that. There's almost nothing that goes on in San Jose like that can be family friendly. The alcohol is another issue that they would have to address. It's the children being the parking lot. But I did not find that when we first got this, I did not find that it was excessive coming after dinner. That's not my concern. My concern, and I've said this before, is the frequency of which they are asking, because I don't believe that this extension permit request was designed for business to have every weekend. I appreciate the fact that all of the merchants came together and did not have any complaints about the fact that they were here on Sunday, and they stopped at around 7 p.m. That's correct, right? So 4 to 7 p.m. I'm just making that observation that I had personally.
May I address one thing that you said? We do have things for the kids. We are not just the electric brewery, we're also the Bisbee Soda Works, and right now we have 3 sodas available. And, you know, in part, that's for the kids. And oftentimes at these events, we have several kids, you know, that come with their parents to see the show.
When I made that statement, it wasn't, did you have something that they consume? My concern is, and I don't know how the law is, the code, et cetera, my concern was if you're serving alcohol, and you had children present. That was my concern. That's why I said that.
They can be in an establishment, children can, except after 7 in the evening.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, I'm gonna ask the city attorney real quickly on this extension of premises. I guess, I don't know much about the liquor laws as far as that goes. I don't know. If you don't have an answer, that's fine. You can give it to me later, or, you know. Is this something you would consider a standard practice for a business every week? They would be applying for these. Is that what the law is designed for, or the way it's written up, or is there no?
Mayor and council, I would want to look into what the specific Title IV statute provided for with regard to the temporary extension permits and things like that. The other thing that the question was raised is, and I'd have to look into the city's zoning code, was whether or not the zoning for this area or for this property permits outdoor uses. Sometimes there's zoning restrictions on outdoor uses and things. And the intent is to want to make sure, and that's the reason why these applications have to come before council before they're submitted to the state liquor department, is to ensure that everything is in accordance with town code, whether it be the noise restrictions and requirements, zoning, taking into consideration complaints from neighbors and things like that. And whether or not, I mean, just because there isn't anything in the regulations that say that there's you can only apply for this 3 or 4 times, just because there's not a limitation doesn't mean that the council can't say, we think that these should be not a regular business activity, but a special event type process.
I guess my last concern to ask you would be, and the other reason I have would be setting precedents here, that we are allowing this on a continued every weekend basis, and then the next time, the next one in Old Bisbee does this, and then we get another one elsewhere, and now it starts to, we can't say, well, gee, you let the days do, why can't we do it, you know, and well, the situation may be different, but I don't know if that kind of sets us into a,
Well, I think you're able to look at every application on a case-by-case basis, because you have specific issues for specific locations, businesses, different things like that. But you do, as a council, have to balance you want your businesses to be profitable and to bring in and have business, but you also want to address the concerns of the neighbors and the issues of noise and stuff like that. You know, especially for those who are on a Sunday, it's their day off, they want to be in their house, they want to have quiet, different things like that. So it's a balancing kind of juggling act, but I can take a look and see if there's any specific guidance from the statutes with regard to the question of on a regular continuing basis every week. It would seem to me that would probably fall under, instead of a temporary, but a permanent extension application. There's a different process and requirements for that.
We actually have the records from the Arizona State Liquor, whatever it's called, I can't think right now, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. Winston has that.
yeah, here, you can look it up.
No, we have a copy of it right now.
We don't need, excuse me, sir, excuse me, what I'm gonna say is, I'm gonna have him look into it and get back with us. this is not a decision that you, that
Oh,
an
no,
attorney.
no,
would-
I understand.
So,
We have never been part of a city council meeting before, and
No, I
we're
know.
all, we don't know what we're supposed to
Okay, so
do.
that's why,
Okay.
if you just let me, you know.
Well, may I say something, please?
Well,
Just
what-
for a moment,
in
because.
just a minute, okay, when, I'll open it back up to you, we have to have recognition between the two of them. So I had questions of my city attorney, I'm gonna ask him to look into it. The one other question I did have for you, before I lose my chain of thought, was I noticed that, excuse me, before these even came before us 2 weeks ago, you were already advertising these and the musicians. So in other words, it was like you were advertising before you even got the permit. So I thought that was a little bit
I put those-
presumptuous.
I-
I'm just gonna tell you,
Okay,
it's a little
I'm
bit
sorry.
presumptuous to be advertising before you actually have the permit.
It is not. I put those up there before you didn't approve us. I add them as we book them
Right.
on Facebook. I put them up.
Right, before you actually have the permit to do it.
I didn't
From
know
us.
that it was going to be a problem. I put them up. It wasn't being presumptuous.
Okay.
I was just following.
All right, go ahead, you
Okay,
have the floor for a minute.
I would have liked to have had a chance to address each and every one of you that did make a statement. I didn't know I was going to have an opportunity. I'm not going to have an opportunity. I do not know, I had something I wanted to say when you told me that I couldn't and you were talking to the council. Now, I don't know. Perhaps in the future, in council meetings, if you make a point to a citizen of the city of Bisbee who is here,
Well, I don't.
could you please
That's not.
give them
I'm
an opportunity?
I'm sorry, but that's not, the way it works is we open up for discussion on council. If we have questions, we'll direct a question to you, and then I can give you a follow-up at the end. If that requires you taking notes as we discuss it among ourselves, so we can make a decision. That's the way the process works, that's the way Robert Rules of Order work, and so just know that. That's, we're not picking on anybody.
Okay,
I do not have a copy of the Robert's Rules of Order, and I should have been informed of this in advance.
because I'm sorry, I don't have a pen with me right now.
Mr. Mayor?
I do have
Yeah.
paper.
I just have one.
Okay.
Yes, fine. Well,
Sure.
I believe the overall objective of the council, is to come up with a decision that works for everybody. Okay, and, thank you very much for saying that this is all new for you. It's normally, people don't come to the city council, okay? We have very few people that come up here. However, so most people are not familiar with how it operates. The overall objective is that when there is a question, that we address it and that we come to a decision for the citizens as well as the council.
City Manager.
Thank you. A couple of things. First of all, coming back around, obviously this is an approval of an extension of premises permit. But the purpose in tonight's discussion, and the reason it was delayed from the prior council meeting, was due to a complaint of excessive noise. So the discussion tonight really and truly is about excessive noise and only about excessive noise, okay? So I think that we should deal with noise issues, okay? Now, 65 decibels, okay? What does that mean? Okay, 65 dBA is a measurement of noise level, sound level, I'm sorry, at a specific distance, okay? And if you get your science book out, you'll find out what that is. What you will also find out is that decibel levels do not increase in a linear fashion. They increase on a curve, to which it gets steeper and steeper the louder and louder it gets. So when you get to 70, okay, we're talking in our code, what, 60? You know, from 60 to 70 is a huge jump, okay? Now, In a prior life, I used to sell air compressors for the big ones, not the one in your garage, the one in your factory, okay? And the difference between 85 and 100 decibels was deafening, literally and figuratively. So what we need to assess, and I think it's time that we do this, maybe, and Mayor, I don't want to take anything away from your cell phone application, but I think a real sound meter at a real distance is probably the next step. I think those measurements need to be taken, okay? They need to be compared against what our code actually says. Maybe not what I said, but what the code says, okay, because I may have misspoken. And I think in order to deal with this more expeditiously, there is, as you know, a distinct difference in the level of sound produced by acoustic instruments versus amplified instruments or amplified singing, okay? Now, that may or may not be objectionable to the applicant, but I think at least next Sunday and the Sunday after that, while all of this other stuff gets sorted out, if unamplified entertainment were used at that location, we may in fact see a much bigger difference in the amount of noise that we reach at the specific interval, okay? So that would be the short-term solution, in my opinion. You can take it or not. The short-term solution is unamplified entertainment. The long-term solution is finding out exactly where the boundaries are at specific levels. And then whatever's in our code, we just have to stick to whatever's in our code. And, the zoning issue is a separate and distinct issue. It's not really tonight's issue, but it probably should be looked into, and it may have to go through the planning commission if it does.
Well, that's where I was going. I mean, ultimately, what I wanted to say is I just want it to be compliant with the code. That's all I'm asking for, is 100 feet from the front of the building, no louder than 60 decibels. And that's what I think is our code calls for, and I think that's what's reasonable, and I'm hoping that's something you can live with.
So what I'm recommending is, if council wants to take action tonight on amplifying entertainment in connection with these permits, and then a longer-term exercise in what our rules really mean, and apply them here and make them stick.
Real quick question.
Sure.
So you know you've been doing this over and over and over. You plan on doing this over and over and over, what you're doing on Sundays. My question, I guess, is why, knowing that we've asked you to do the whole sound to the building thing, why you guys haven't maybe invested in those stand-up speakers that we use, that you put out behind your crowd, so that the music is behind your crowd, playing towards, so that you can hear it. You understand what I'm saying? They're on stands. They're big.
I do know what you're talking about.
We use them in a pool I work at.
Right, and you have the money to afford those.
Yeah, they're about $100.
Okay?
I bought them.
And they're $100, but the thing is, they are not always compatible with the bands that we have playing. The bands bring their own equipment. I would like to change to an acoustic musician for this Sunday, but I don't think there is time to find an acoustic musician. Maybe I will shut up and let you talk.
Yeah, we have a lot of them advertised on Facebook every night.
May I have one other thing, and that is, as you were speaking about, the codified noise level, it's ambiguous because it only says the level of an ordinary conversation.
Right, which is 60 decibels, according to the EPA. So that's the way we. All right,
You wanted to say
listen,
something?
I'm willing to approve the next two as is, but you need to understand that I don't want to hear another complaint. What I want is you have a decibel level. I want you to go 100 feet from the front of your building and keep it at 60 decibels. If you can do that, then everything's fine. We can continue down this path. But if you can't do that, then you need to do something else, which is acoustical or something else. That's my suggestion to this council, my suggestion. I don't want to hog tie you up in 6 days from now. We've already advertised, but I'm gonna ask you outright tonight, do you think you can do that?
I can try. I know that we can keep it below 60 decibels by the highway. But to keep
That's not the code, the code is 100
All right.
feet.
And
And you may claim that you own the parking lot, that's not the point. The point is 100 feet from the front of your building. I'm sorry, but that's my feeling is the way
It
this code
says
is written.
the 100 feet from the property line, and I think we weren't really clear on that. You seem to think it's the front door, and we thought it was.
Okay, then I'm gonna recommend everybody, we just go acoustical, that's what you're approved for. I will sign these permits for tomorrow for acoustical for the next 4 weeks, and then we'll see where we go from there. All right? If you wanna argue with me about what a property line is, a property line is from your front door. That's what this
It
whole
wasn't
premise
made-
is, not from a 200-foot parking lot, so.
Well, we were.
I'm making the motion tonight that we approve items 3, 4, 5, and 6 for extension of premises for acoustical musician only.
Mr. Mayor?
We have a motion and a second to approve on old business items 3, 4, 5, and 6, the extension of premises for electric brewery and for acoustical music only for those next 4 weeks. And then we'll see where we go from there. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. So moved. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
All right, moving on to item 7. Item 7, this will be discussion and possible approval of the recommendation of the Bisbee Arts Commission, City Council to file a grant application, the amount of $500 from the Bisbee Arts Commission. That's
Okay, so this is actually a retroactive grant. The performance already took place on June 18th, and it was at Chuckleheads, and it featured several genderqueer and transgender artists. And the Arts Commission is always invested in supporting the community, and they really wanted to support genderqueer people and the transgender during Pride Month. And so that's why the commission has agreed to fund this project after the fact. Yes, Jim.
I have nothing against the funding. I do have a question about the title. It's termed Busy Pride Show, and I've already had people from Pride question that because they weren't affiliated. And that has caused a little bit of a rift because we had this issue before, you know, piggybacking on other people's titles. I mean, that is a very distinct title for Bisbee. Bisbee Pride is known for, and I'm not saying whatever happened, I didn't see the show, so it was probably a great show, but the fact that they so aligned so closely is an issue. And they need to be very, very careful, I guess, in the future without piggybacking. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because that is a concern, and it does cause, it causes problems, because it's a misrepresentation. And like I said, I have no problem with the funding. You know, I think it's great that, you know, we are supporting those communities in Bisbee, but I really think they need to watch how they advertise themselves so that they're not piggybacking or aligning themselves with somebody without permission. So,
Okay,
yeah, so.
that makes total sense, Tony, and I'll go back to the Arts Commission and let them know.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah.
I also have, just my concern is going back and do retroactive. I don't want to set the precedent. My concern is, well, why wasn't this done before? Why did they have to go back? I mean, maybe so people can understand the reason behind this.
Well, the story I got was that this was used to pay some of the performers, and they realized after the fact they were gonna be short, so they applied for retroactive funding. And, the Arts Commission was willing to do it because it was a good time to support, you know, this community. But this is not, I don't think, going to be a trend from what I heard.
all right. Any other discussion? Seeing none.
You're saying that this is not going to be a trend. This is an exception.
This is an exception to fund things after the fact, yes.
Okay, any other comments, questions? I have a motion, please.
I move to approve the recommendation from the Bisbee Arts Commission to City Council to fund a grant application from Pandemonium Milo Metzner in the amount of $500 from the Bisbee Arts Commission fund.
A second.
We have a motion and a second, presented on item 7. All those in favor to fund the Bisbee Arts Commission the $500 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, so moved. Moving on to item 8, this is discussion and possible approval of the amendment number 1 to the agreement to provide animal care services between the City of Bisbee and the Friends of the Bisbee Animal Shelter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. The ongoing agreement between the city and the Bisbee Animal Shelter, which is a local nonprofit corporation who's been running shelter for several years now, had requested, because our agreement is automatically renews on an annual basis. There had been a change in the last year in the documents that they are actually required to provide the city. And so all this does is it spells out the reports that we actually need to receive and nothing else. So basically, on the back side of your council action form, the operative part is paragraph number 5, where the Bisbee Animal Shelter shall provide the city with a monthly report of all animals accepted, adopted, and humanely euthanized. The shelter will also provide the city with a monthly profit and loss statement. That is in fact what we have been getting, and we just wanted to amend our agreement with them to reflect what's actually happening.
Any questions? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
I move to approve amendment number 1 to the agreement to provide animal care services between the City of Bisbee and the Friends of the Bisbee Animal Shelter.
A second.
We have a motion and a second, for item 8, to approve the amendment to the, with Friends of the Bisbee Animal Shelter in the City of Bisbee for animal care. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it, so moved. Moving on to item number 9. This is discussion and possible approval of the award of a contract to KE&G to install a catch basin on Tombstone Canyon near the entrance of the Bisbee B parking lot.
Evening, Mayor and Council. For the public, I'm Logan Dodd, Operations Manager. We'd like your approval for KE&G to win the contract for installing catch basin on Main Street. We received 2 sealed bids after we put it out to public. KE&G at the lowest bid at $39,400. The second one from HT4 at $59,200.
Okay, questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, what would cause such a discrepancy?
What's that?
What causes such a discrepancy in the bids? Do they just make a bid so you don't really know why there was such a difference? I guess that's my question.
We don't necessarily usually has to do with the size. KE&G is a fairly large company. The other one that applied was a small one out of Safford.
Okay.
So resources more or less.
I'm glad they want the job.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, okay, you wanna go ahead?
No,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know, like, yes, we need the work. A lot of times KE&G comes under bid because there's always changes, change orders. And that always concerns me. I mean, they do a good job, I'm not saying that they do. But I'm always concerned with the amount of change orders that, you know, so if we can kind of, you know, watch that.
We absolutely can, and when we put out for bid or contract, we can set a limit on that change order too, when we write it up. So that's something I'll take under advisement from you for future contracts.
Okay, just a reminder maybe to discuss this. I would like to know what effect, I don't know if you have the information, Matthew's not here, but if you may, it will affect in the area, I mean, about the buildings in the area and how the amount of work, I mean, what goes into this, how effective will it be, what disruption it may have? Because I've received some calls from some of the business building owners in that area, and they're concerned about, and they are also concerned what Ann was talking about, some of the contractors, we have to be very careful.
Mr. Mayor, let me take the first
Okay.
Okay.
whack at this one. First of all, KE&G has done most all of the work that we haven't done ourselves in the city of Bisbee for a good number of years. And they have always provided us with a quality product. There were a few issues on Main Street a couple years ago when they did that. Those have been corrected. The fact that the catch basin is required now is because it was, quite frankly, not taken into account then. And that's the city's fault. That isn't the contractor's fault. There is a catch basin directly across the street from the location where this catch basin is going to go. There's already a pipe in the ground, and that pipe will catch the water on one side and transmit it over and merge with the water that we catch on the other side, and then we'll go into a bigger pipe, which they will install, that goes into the Mule Gulch channel, okay? Now, there's a reason that there was a handrail and an additional curb put up on that side of the street about a year ago. That's because water likes to go in a straight line, and we didn't catch it. And so what this catch basin is going to do is it's going to catch the water that comes upstream and eliminate that water, and then the rain down below will start the new stream that'll go down and hit the catch basin that's down by the library. So essentially what we've done is we've changed from 1 to 2 locations on the low end of Main Street where we're catching water, which is a solution that I had directed Public Works to do about a year and a half ago, and for a variety of reasons did not get done. So we are fixing something that we should have done in the first place, and it did get done, and then when we asked for corrective action, the corrective action didn't get done, and so here we are doing it a year and a half later.
Side note, I started in December.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so can you give us, thank you, Steve, for this. How disruptive this will be? What amount of work going to be? Is it going to affect any buildings in the area, like the amount of work, the digging, what effect it may have on the buildings, on the structures? That's what my goal. And how will the diversion of water affect some of the buildings on Main Street?
So long term, this is going to definitely help keep them dry. As Steve said, we were concerned about having to put sandbags up on most of those buildings, some of the lower ones,
yes,
where the curb is to keep them dry. Impact will be with traffic. They'll have to submit a traffic control plan. They'll probably have flaggers, so they'll have controlled traffic going through, but the overall work, as long as we're not impeded by weather or whatnot, should go fairly quick. So I think Larry told us 2 weeks is what he had said. And that's a gentleman from KE&G we talked to.
You will lose parking at Bisbee Beach.
Just the parking, but
Yes.
the effect, the digging, will it affect the structure? Is how if you can give us an idea, the amount of work, I mean, the compressors, is it going to have?
Yeah, so they're gonna have to do some saw cuts and then some trenching, removing some of the ground out of there.
Okay.
It's a fairly small section, so the beginning of the Bisbee parking lot, back to the end of the building, and that's where the channel starts for Commerce Street. So it'll be about a 5-foot section that'll be torn up probably, that they'll trench down to insert that new pipe and connect onto. Overall traffic and businesses, I mean, they're gonna set up cones and everything, people have to walk around, but it should be fairly painless for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as the weather doesn't hit us hard, we'll
And
do it.
the studies,
But
I'm
it's
assuming the studies were done and the effect it may have been taken into consideration. That's my question.
Yeah.
But the studies, what I remember is
Yeah.
the water is coming down and turns towards the Bisbee parking lot
Yeah.
because of where the Royale is, and it runs on that side. And that's where we're gonna catch it. is
Catch
right
it
there in
before it
front of-
gets to the.
Well, right as it gets in front of the Grand and take it off of the street, since the road is crowned, it either is in that catch basin or this one for the most part. Sure, there'll be some in the middle, but not, the majority will be caught Minus two basins.
Which, in point of fact, right now, there is no catch basin
Yeah.
on that side.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's,
Basically, it will remove probably 90% of the impact of water coming down from the entrance to the Busy Bee parking lot, all the way down to, well, basically to the library where the other catch basin is.
I can tell you that Matt and I took some grade measurements on that road, and as the mayor said, it's curved, so it's got the right shape for everything. We put the basin in on the one side, but all that water is just staying on the other side. We talked about putting in the same kind of basin like you have down by the library, but we didn't think it would be necessary with the amount.
of course, the road's like this.
The road's cramped.
It'd be a difficult one, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be a little loud bump, and you'd hear some complaints from businesses and stuff, so.
Okay, and how long would that be? You have it in, I mean, I read through, they're talking about they will stay within the budget, but do you have an idea what?
Completion?
Yes.
Start to finish, I would say, if I remember correctly, Blair said 2 weeks,
Yeah.
but anywhere to
That's
4
what it
weeks,
is.
just depending. There's
They're not gonna, they wanna get in and get out.
Absolutely, and the traffic will be affected for a small part of that too. It won't be the entire length of the construction.
This is slow season supposedly.
Huh?
All right, any more? Then, have a motion? Go ahead.
I move to award a contract to KE&G to install a catch basin on Tombstone Canyon near the entrance of the Busy parking lot.
Second?
Have a motion and a second for item 9 to install a catch basin by KE&G. Although, that's a lot of money. We'll have a roll call.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Giacomino.
Aye.
Councilmember Johns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein. Mayor Budd.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. I have this limit how much I can.
Yeah, this is, that's, I think I go at around 70, so you don't have to worry about that.
Okay, catch me, if anybody wants a roll call, just let me know. All right, item number 10, we'll move forward. This is discussion of possible approval to lease three lease agreements from GM Financial Commercial Vehicle Lending for 3 2022 Chevrolet Silverado trucks. Go ahead.
Mayor and Council, in November, you guys approved us to go out for a contract, getting 3 new vehicles. 2 of them will be 4-wheel drive and a 2-wheel drive vehicle for the parks, the other one for street and collections. So we have those lease agreements now in hand, and we're bringing them to you for approval on those so that we can pick them up in Tucson and get ready to work.
All right, questions? The 2 or 4-wheel drive and one's 2-wheel drive?
Yes, sir.
The Parks 2-wheel or? who?
Parks is 2-wheel,
Okay.
streets 4-wheel, and collections will be 4-wheel drive.
Mayor, and just a reminder, are they replacing cars that will exist, or these are additional?
We will be replacing a couple from our fleet, probably not for a little bit, but they're cycling on their way out.
Okay, so this will be a replacement.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And these are on contract, but we own them when they're done.
Yeah.
They're not a lease or return.
Well, by the time we own them, they're done.
Yeah, I don't know, the ones they're driving now, they've been done for a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Are these the kind of lease where they're the dollar buyback, or are these a real lease? I should say real lease. And like the state, we bought things from the state where after X amount of time, we pay it, or is this one of those that's?
No, they don't go back, these,
No, I'm not saying it
Oh.
goes back. When you buy from the state through the, you know what I'm talking about? Like-
Cooperative.
Thank you, and you end up balancing out like with a dollar or whatever. Is that what this is, or is this something different?
If it says in the purchase agreement that we can acquire them at the end of the lease period for $1, then that's what it is.
So, okay.
Is that what it says?
No,
No, okay. That's why I didn't see it, I didn't know.
I didn't read that when I reviewed it this evening.
but it's a lease purchase, so at the end, we don't have to pay
Okay,
a
so
dollar.
after, yeah, okay, but after, it's just 6 years old, right?
Mayor, I have a
Yeah,
question.
sure.
I said I would be nice tonight,
You guys have been pretty nice.
but, but the question I have is, these vehicles, and we probably were given that information before, but the vehicles that they're replacing, what are the years and mileage of those? Do you know that offhand, or?
It would
if not-
be, I would be guessing for the most part, but I can tell you that they're all under 2010. They're all over probably 10 years old. That sound about right? For the group?
We usually keep them no less than 10 years, and I think that one in Parks is even older.
The black one? Yeah, that's about it.
I think Henry Ford built that one. Oh, wait a minute, it's a Chevy, sorry.
He still knows.
So does that mean they're gonna hand those down to the fire department then?
You know,
They get all the, they get all the.
I don't think even Jim could use it.
I was hoping they could do a 41 Ford, but.
I have one more question.
Oh, okay, sir.
I was looking through the leasing agreements. We're talking at 7.189%. Isn't that a bit high? I know you guys through go state through fee, but that's the interest rate is a bit high as far as. And you guys made the deal a while ago, didn't you?
Recently we did sign it. It's been in the works for a little bit. Matt's been
Oh, so you went when the interest was already high?
I just saw that. I brought that up to Steve this
Oh, you
evening,
did?
actually.
Actually,
Good,
these
so-
were first quoted to us before interest rates started climbing.
Wow.
This is a lease purchase agreement, that's not uncommon, but you'll also notice that, and the gentleman to my right was just whispering in my ear, he wishes he could buy a truck that cheap. So it's, you get the advantage of cooperative purchasing with low prices and then.
But you pay high
you
interest.
pay higher interest rate.
Did you somehow?
Okay, so they make it either way.
But we're not doing undercoating, so. We'll get you that desert
I know, I'm
protection.
just
bag. Okay,
All right,
we gotta keep it light.
okay.
Any more? How about a motion? Anybody want one? Take one?
I'm not doing that.
I move to approve the 3 lease agreements from GM Financial, commercial vehicle lending for 3 2022 Chevrolet Silverado trucks.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for item 10, purchase 3 lease agreements from GM Financial for 2022 Chevrolet Silverado trucks. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Giacomino.
Aye.
Councilmember Johns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Thank you. I think we're down to the last 2. Next one will be item number 11, is discussion and possible approval of a second amendment to the agreement for the purchase and sale of real property for the Hillcrest building. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The council will recall, at a prior council meeting, we approved amendment number 1 to the agreement to sell the Hillcrest building to La Pantera. That allowed us to extend that period of due diligence to June 30th of 2022. And so it became apparent after the prospective buyer did not get their tax credits, that this would put a serious damper on their ability to follow through with project. And so we've had a couple of conversations with the developer, and those discussions have basically resulted in a change in the agreement. And on the backside, under agreements at the bottom of the page, it's specified here that we will agree to provide the extended feasibility period to June 30th, 2023. And then that assumes that they'll be able to get tax credits in the 2023 round, which are awarded on June 1st every year. In the meantime, paragraph number 2 gives us the opportunity to resell the property, notwithstanding the provisions in paragraph number 1, which essentially in plain language says we can and we will be looking for another buyer. So there have been a number of conversations about how that may or may not work, but essentially what this gives us is the sole right to advertise and auction this property again. And with acceptance of the second amendment to this agreement, would also like your permission to go ahead and advertise the building for sale again. And this is with not only agreement, but full cooperation of the existing buyer. And just as a side note, we do have 3 people that have looked at the building and want to bid.
Okay, yeah, just real quickly, this will come November 30th, if we don't have a buyer, then this one kicks back in, so everybody understands.
So we have to wait till November?
No, November is when the original buyer gets to lock it back up.
Okay,
No, we want to start again tomorrow.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
so
that's good.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Okay, so, just correct me if I'm misspeaking. My question is, so this is back in our hands, are we gonna immediately then look at securing that building? Because the doors have been kicked in and there's some big issues up there.
Okay, number one, we're going to follow up on it immediately. It's not gonna wait.
Okay.
Number two, the Public Works Department goes around that building every single day. And we find breaches of that project every single day. I have instructed Public Works to just go ahead and hire a local contractor to board up the rest of the windows, because we're now getting not only human neighbors in there, at times we're also getting flying neighbors in there. At times, the kind that you really love around Halloween. You know, with the doors are a matter of particular concern, because no matter, I mean, you can only secure them so much or you can't get in yourself. And we do have interested prospective buyers, so they have to be accessible to some degree, and safe to some degree. So we do know, we are aware, we are, you know, we never did not own the property. We had a deal with a buyer, but we have continuously owned it during this entire period of time. But Public Works goes around that building every single day. And we are considering other steps for additional security, which I probably won't discuss at public meeting.
I have some bear traps.
All right.
We weren't thinking of that.
No, sure.
So, since we do have unwanted, you know,
Yes.
flying guests in, do we know that there's no squatters, or, I mean, have we had an issue with?
Every time there's a breach of the building, we send a police officer through the building with one of our Public Works people before we re-secure the building to make sure there's nobody in there. The bats, that's another matter.
People going up there bringing tools with them. I've acquired a cat claw, a hammer, that they store in spots where they're taking it off, so.
Yeah, I'm right under the crane. Yeah, it's called broken window syndrome. So, any other questions?
And just to clarify, this allows the city up to November 30th to sell this property to any other party. They just ask that if we get to November 30th and we don't have it sold, that then they have it locked up to June, because that starts off the time process for them to resubmit all the paperwork and stuff. So that's why we have those 2 different dates in there.
Okay.
And if we sell it, then we give back the earnest money that we have.
Yes.
So we're holding
That's
earnest,
fair.
we're holding earnest.
That's
New earnest money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Immediately after the meeting, 3 council members will come with me and we'll just walk it and check it out at night, make sure nobody's in.
Sounds good.
I mean, Halloween is coming.
It's my favorite.
We do Halloween. All right,
That's all I have, sir.
We'll send them out.
okay.
Oh, no.
Anything else? Seeing nothing, I'll make a motion that I move to approve a second amendment to the agreement for the purchase and sale of real property for the Hillcrest building.
I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 11 as shown, to approve the second amendment for the Hillcrest. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, so moved. Last item up for agenda is item 12. This is discussion of possible approval of resolution R-22-13. This is a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Bisbee, county of Cochise, submitting to the electors at a general election to be held on November 8th, 2022, a proposition authorizing the continuation of the 1 cent, 1% transaction privilege tax. Go ahead, City Manager.
Okay, thank you. Never before have I actually negotiated ballot language and then put it on a council action form with a resolution written by the city attorney and others. And so this is a first for me, and I will admit right off the top to making a mistake that is not fatal. I called it an ordinance at the top instead of a resolution, so just for the record, note that it's a resolution, not an ordinance. So essentially, this is language that was approved by our financial advisors, our bond counsel, our city attorney, and ourselves, so that it accurately reflects what we are asking the voters to do, which essentially is to continue to collect 1% in TPT or sales tax. The difference, of course, is for the use of the money, not for the collection of the money. And the difference being that we will now be splitting the money between Streets and Infrastructure Fund and the Public Safety Retirement System debt service. And it's as simple as that, even though it took a whole week of haggling to get the language nailed down.
There was a chain of emails about this long.
But everybody's okay with this language, so.
So I hope you are. Any questions? You see what we're.
So how long will this be, the continuation? Are we specifying the number of years?
Yes, there is at the
Yes.
bottom of the resolution.
The ballot language says,
That's what I read.
it takes effect on March 23, 2023, and continuing until PSPRS bond obligations of the city are paid in full, or through July 1st, 2048, whichever occurs first.
Yeah, this is what I wanted. I just wanted to bring this up. I read that, but I just want to make sure.
It
it's
definitely
clear for
has a
everyone.
sunset.
Yeah.
What I foresee here, and I know I won't be here, and I don't know how many of you might. Still be on council. Yeah.
I hope to be.
Yeah, so, but, you know, after, the big part of this is we have the bond payments, we know we can meet those, but this will start to establish the fund, about $1.5 million that we need to hold in reserve in case there's a down year or those things rise, so we can stay on top of it and then replace that fund until, you know. And then after that, if the future mayor and councils want to start putting additional money onto it, just by making a double house payment or whatever, it won't last as long as this is. And so if times stay good and you could have this paid off in 15 years, not 20 years, so, or 25 years. So, but we had to put an end date based on minimum payments for the full 25 years. So that's why you see that date is there. But I'm gonna try to let the public know that at least what I would like to see forward is that we get this paid off as quick as possible, and that, you know, then we'll let the people decide what to do from that point forward, once we're totally out of debt with the bonds. More questions?
Just because of, you know, I get some questions sometimes from the public. If this goes and if this does not get approved, we've gone out, we've gotten the bond, and what are the ramifications and what will be faced with
If the ballot issue is not approved by the voters, then that means the 1 cent sales tax that we are already paying will cease to be collected on February 28th of 2023. Okay. What that will also mean beyond the dollars, what that will mean is the Streets and Infrastructure Fund will no longer be funded. And so all of the progress that we have been making over the last 8 years to correct the problems on streets that have some in excess of 50 years in the making. That will end. Now, it will not mean that we can't meet our bond obligation, but it may mean that we can't meet our obligation for the CRF or the reserve fund that we committed to do when we sold the bond issue. We committed to put money in a reserve fund to meet any bad investment years that may come in the future.
So we'll have to look for other ways to make up that
You
deficit. in
may
case.
have to take it,
That's my question.
your first and last option is always the general fund.
Yeah.
So if you can't make it from this, you'd have to make it from someplace else.
Point I'd like to point, if you look at your budget, and you see streets are basically funded by HERF money. And if you look at that revenue, and then you look at the expenses, if you just add up the cost that we pay for streetlights and what we pay for insurance, it leaves like $40,000 to do everything else for the rest of the year. It's just, that just barely covers staying alive. So really what I'm gonna ask the public to realize that, I mean, a lot of the big stuff's done, a lot of the $1 million projects we've got done already. So this will just help us keep chucking away, you know, at least half of what we were doing before, and replace walls, put in catch basins, do those kinds of things that we need to do to take this 100-year-old town and keep it, you know, running. So that's, I think it's a good mix. And if there's a big couple of years after we get that reserve fund bill, if there's some years down the road that the mayor and council would like to put more money towards roads, they can do that. If they want to put more money towards the PSPRS debt, they can do that.
We can go and back and revisit and.
Yeah, you know, the fund is there, the money is there, and it can be split between it, and it's up to the mayor and council to determine how that's split. Right now, you know, we're looking at 50-50 for the first few years until we can build a reserve fund and still continue to pay roads.
The way it's set up is that we can have a discussion every year when we consider the budget, on how we're gonna allocate those funds.
So that, this doesn't, I hate to tie future mayor and councils down to an exact locked-in situation, and so this gives some flexibility and also gives us the flexibility to start paying off our credit card debt and also keep up with our infrastructure problems that we have in the city. Okay, I'll beat that one.
And that's all I have. I just hope to, you know, of course, we recommend approval of the resolution, and we've already done the bond issue, and so we'll be good to go.
Yeah, and I will encourage my council members to go out and push this forward among your constituents, because it will be important for us in the future to.
And that's the reason I asked
Yeah,
question,
sure.
so the public know,
Yeah.
and they have the right to know.
Is that?
And of course, it's also very important to stress that this is not increasing your taxes.
Yes,
Just
that's
continue,
clear.
take what we have.
We continue what we're doing.
Yes.
A lot of wordsmithing there to get to continued correctly. We even had the League of Cities and Towns jump in on this one.
They did.
Anyway. All right, so, hey, this is a simple one. I move to approve resolution R-22-13 as recommended. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution R-2213 as recommended. This will continue the 1 cent sales transaction privilege tax. Roll call on this one.
Councilmember Hill. Councilmember Giacomino.
Aye.
Councilmember Johns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein. Mayor Budge.
Aye, motion passes 6-0. All right, on to the last matter, that will be the city manager's report.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, and I do have a couple of extra things this evening, and but first, just as a reminder, we've been talking since we allocated the first round of ARPA funding to nonprofits, that there would be another round when we got the second allocation. Second allocation, I don't know if it's come in the door yet, but it's due to come in the door right now. An allocation of $872,000. Last year, the council took applications from eligible nonprofit organizations who had a need, essentially an emergency need for funding that was at least peripherally based on the pandemic that quite frankly we're still in. So as recently as yesterday afternoon, I actually got a question from somebody looking to know when we were going to have the second round, and we more or less committed to do that last year when we did the first round. Anyway, it's my recommendation that we go ahead and seek applications for another round. I think, generally speaking, unless you have a different idea, we put it plus or minus $100,000 last year. So if you want to use the same figure next year, then you need to tell me that. And then also from tonight, we can start advertising tomorrow. And we can use the same application form that we used a year ago. And I just need to know from you when you would like to put a deadline on the applications, which probably from tonight should be at least a month from now.
This one is for discussion because it's on the agenda.
Well,
Yes, you can discuss it.
yeah, the recommendation is the sooner the better, so we can have enough time. So yeah, I think the sooner we do it a month. I think that's enough. Maybe a little more.
I'd like to extend a little longer.
Yes,
mainly,
a little more. Yeah.
Well, because I don't know, summer, the July holidays, a lot of the nonprofits sometimes they break during that time. They don't always meet. I just wondered if we start advertising, we give them a good reminder in a month and say, listen, you got 2 more weeks or something,
Yeah.
put it in, and then we can
Yeah.
start considering it.
I mean, realistically, advertising won't start showing up anymore until next week at the earliest.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Right.
So somewhere,
Do it 45 days. I mean, a total of 45 days. 2
So
months.
that puts us into the middle of August. If you want to go to the end of August, or close to the end of August, the middle of August would be August 19th. The end of August would be August 26th.
Yeah.
Does that work?
that's good with me.
Okay, so let's do August 26th. And then we'll get the word out, and hopefully the local news publishers are listening to the meeting tonight. We'll be able to get that going a little sooner.
Oh, I wanted to ask, did we have any kind of reporting from these organizations last time we distributed funds? Like, did they come back and tell us what they were doing with them?
Well, anecdotally, yes, but they were not under any requirements
Could
to
we,
provide us with a report of how the money was spent.
okay, could we maybe have a little bit of a report this next time when we do it? Would that be unfair?
We can add that to the application if you like. That way they're on notice when they apply that they got a report.
Yeah.
Now,
Good.
now the question would be, at what point do you want them to report?
Some of the grants that nonprofits I've been involved with, we had a quarterly report, and then we had an end of year. So by the end of the year, we had to have used all the money that we were allotted, or by the end of the cycle, I should say. We had to get, at the end of the cycle, we had to get a detailed report as to what we spent the money on specifically. Not, yay, we were successful and thank you for the money. You know, it was.
Yeah, I think, I remember our motives last year were to be as simple as humanly possible, even though we made it less simple over time. But you know, something that just tells us how the money was spent and when it was spent, I think would be sufficient, because these are generally pretty small amounts of money compared to some of the stuff that we deal with ourselves. So, and there was something else I was gonna make a point to your comment, and now that's poof, gone. So, it's a senior moment. So we will do that.
Tomorrow.
Okay,
That's it on this one, unless there's any other questions. Oh, the other question was this. If someone was funded a year ago, are they eligible for funding this year?
I was gonna ask that.
This was considered an emergency a year ago.
I kinda have a thought that maybe those that didn't get funded should have priority. And then if there's not, then those that have already received funding could then become eligible also, because it doesn't seem fair that the same group are getting all the money. Because I know there were some people that were like, oh, we didn't hear about it, which, you know, I didn't say anything, but, you know, it is what it
No
is.
matter
But
what we do, somebody's not gonna do that.
Exactly, that's why I said I didn't say anything, but the fact of the matter is, I think it needs to be broadened more, and more people made available to it. And even maybe not the full, I mean, if you got the money the first time around, I don't know how you guys feel, but should they still be eligible for the full amount, or maybe 3/4 of the amount the second time around, I don't know.
Can I make a suggestion? I like the applicants broken out, that when they come in, we have a pile of not having received and have received. We'll consider the first, that didn't get, and then we can proceed. We'll use the same kind of method, we get that tonight. And then, if that would work, then that way we're not denying anybody to apply, and we'll see how it all comes out, and give preference if we can to people who haven't received anything yet. How's that?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, and last year we had, said around $100,000. I believe it ended up being 107. If everybody got their money, I don't know if everybody got it, but that's what we ended up deciding on after we've gone through all the applications. So if that's still good with you all, that'll be the benchmark.
Can I ask the one question, was there criteria as to what the money would be used for?
Yes.
Yeah, those 5 questions, or 4 or 5.
If you would like, Ashley, would you email out a copy of last year's application?
Of course. I will add the request for a report, and then I'll send it up.
Okay, that way, when you'll be able to see what the application looked like last year. Okay, thank you very much. I've had a few folks who haven't let us forget, and that's good, just in case we do. So, okay, item number 2, we had discussed at our strategy meeting several months ago, opening up for business 5 days a week instead of 4, and that is now effective this week. We will be open on Friday. It seemed odd that I was opening up on Friday when we were closed on Monday, but our commitment was we were gonna do it at the beginning of the fiscal year, and here we are. So anyway, we will be open on Fridays. The personnel in all the departments who formerly worked or were closed on Friday have altered their schedule. If they wanted to still work a 4-day schedule, they were afforded the opportunity to do that, but it had to be coordinated within that department, most of which are very small, and approved by the department head. So we'll be open 5 days a week, but your favorite clerk in the finance department will probably be working 4 days a week. So it would be good if you want to see her to know which 4 days are hers. So if that's important to you, if it's not, anybody will do. So that applies to Public Works, that applies to Finance Office, it applies to the City Clerk's office. It applies to the City Manager's office, although he's a one-man department. So I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing and work on Friday anyway.
The city attorney's always 24/7.
We can find it.
There's one, there's a comedian in there. So anyway, just for the public's purposes, if you want to come in and pay your sewer and garbage bill on Friday, you may now do so.
And you do realize you're public safety. That's the way you work.
Okay. I have an announcement. This probably won't shock anybody because it's been a while in the making, but I want to announce tonight that Acting Chief Richardson has been now promoted on a permanent basis to the position of Fire Chief, effective August. You will recall, it's been about a year since Jim was asked to come on board in the acting capacity. And you know, it was one of those situations where he and I, through a series of conversations, set up what we thought were important benchmarks for him to hit if he was wanting to be promoted. And although I'm not sure at times that he actually was wanting to be promoted, he is wanting to be promoted today. So based on hitting our benchmarks, one of which, quite frankly and quite honestly, and everybody knows this has been a sticking point with me, is the continual decline in revenue over the last 5 years in the fire department. So we have already taken steps to alleviate those issues, and we are finding that there are some issues with our current agreement with our partners, so to speak, in the EMS business that are in the process right now of being corrected. And at the end of the month, Chief Richardson and I will be discussing in some considerable detail the contract that we've been living under since 2016, and all of the things that, quite frankly, have not been being lived up to. And so I see the prospects in the department as getting brighter. We've been having continual issues over the last year and a half staffing the department. Today I can tell you that through a lot of hard work, both by Ms. Landers and Chief Richardson, today we are fully staffed. And that hasn't happened in a very long time. And we almost had a hiccup because one of our new people that we hired changed their mind, and but significantly someone else applied that had been working for us in the past, who left in good standing, and we've hired him to return. And that's one of our benchmarks that we went after. We have now had 2 people who formerly worked for us within the last year and have left us, have come back and asked us if they could return to work. So now, to me, that says something about who we are, okay? And that tells me that some of the issues that we were dealing with a year ago and 18 months ago have been fixed to the level that people want to come to work here. And let's hope that that continues in that capacity as we move forward. And Jim's still got a heavy burden on his shoulders, but I'm giving Jim the lion's share of the credit for making those changes that allow us to have people in the fire service and in EMS ask us if they can come to work here. So you will recall a year ago we'd hold a test and nobody would show up. That's changed now. So I'm very hopeful that that is going to mean good things for our continued ability to employ and retain employees in Bisbee Fire. There was something else too that I wanted to mention, and of course it's escaped me, but that's my life. So I think from here on out, I think we can see some good things happening now if we can continue to have some success in obtaining equipment that we have been applying for that we need. Then that will we will be looking at maybe doing some things that we haven't been able to do before, and also maintain some equipment that is still very necessary for us in the department, and maybe jettison some stuff that no longer has value but we can't bring ourselves to get rid of. But every department in the city has that problem. They're not alone. So anyway, thank you. And that was what I was going to say. At least for now, Chief Richardson will also maintain the title of Fire Marshal. Okay. It seems like in the last year we've been able to successfully balance that out, so that the decision to go with full-time fire marshal, which was made a couple of years ago, and maybe some of the aspects of that were perhaps not as well thought out as they should have been, I think what we're seeing and with the last year of experience, plus the fact that we are certifying more firefighters to be able to do fire inspections, so that it's not the burden of one person, so that we can maintain that without, quite frankly, the budget necessity of having that additional full-time position. Now, 6 months from now, we may come back to you with a different decision, but for now, we think we can pull it off, and so we're gonna give it a shot. And of course, that will help to control the budget process as well. So, and Jim, you've already received all kinds of congratulations on Facebook, so just know that, because I know you're not on Facebook, so you can't see it. Okay, I wanted to do a brief budget update, because I think sometimes we come to council meetings and people get up and say things, nobody in particular, but people say things that aren't necessarily true, so I'm gonna give you a very brief year-end budget report. This is not really a budget report, it's a financial performance report. We have been telling you that we've been having a pretty good year based on a lot of belt tightening, okay? A lot of good decisions, a lot of doing things right. You just heard about a couple of them that we've been doing in fire. And so, you know, when the finance department closes the books, which will be a few weeks from now, we totally expect that our revenues will have outpaced our expenditures by somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000. Okay, right now that's a very rough estimate. We're just now beginning the process of closing the books. And as you know, revenues continue to come in for a couple of months after the fiscal year is over that are booked to this year. But we have every bit of confidence, and I think you've seen the confidence in Carrie's reporting from month to month. I think that's an indication that everyone is doing things right. Yeah, we still catch one every once in a while, or somebody did something wrong, but overall, when you're talking about an operation the size of ours, and the enormous number of moving parts we have in all the various departments, we're doing pretty well. Aside from the general fund, every single department is performing at or better than what they did a year ago. So I owe that credit to people checking first. Okay, in prior years, we didn't always check first before we spent $50,000. I mean, that's in my world, that's totally incomprehensible to me. And those of you who were around the first time I worked here know that. And so all we did was we returned to the way we were doing it before, because it always seemed to work then. And so, in spite of that, we've managed to make some progress in some areas that I think are moving the community forward, and not just standing still like we had to do back during the Great Recession. So this is not just doing it the way we did before, but it's doing it that way and still making progress at the same time. So knowing that you've got a very large budget, and the operations part of that very large budget are $15 or $16 million a year, and knowing that we have that we operate on an alternative expenditure limitation, which is dictated to us by the state legislature. Okay, they assigned us an arbitrary number a number of years ago, and without the alternative, we don't do business. And so I'm I told Joni this story this afternoon. I know many of you have heard this story, but every 4 years we come up and have to renew the alternative expenditure limitation, and we ask the voters to do that. And but what I heard every 4 years from Luci Giacomino was, vote for the alternative expenditure limitation and flush with confidence. And I wasn't campaigning, I was just quoting, okay? So,
Yes, yes.
so, I mean, and I guess the only reason I say that, not only was it cute, but it really tells us what's important, okay? You know, all of that literally stops without the alternative expenditure limitation. So when you are out there on your own time, not on city time campaigning for the ballot issue, then, please remember the words of the immortal Luci Giacomino.
Right, quote my mom.
And let that, she would be proud.
Yes, she would.
Okay, last thing before we go,
Can I just interrupt?
yes,
That 400,000 to 500,000 you're talking about does not include the ARPA, that money, that's above what we have in there for ARPA, correct?
I'm sorry.
The surplus you're talking about.
No, that's the general operating expenses, that does not include ARPA
That's
distributions.
how I want, let everybody
Yeah,
realize.
we've now separated the ARPA distribution
I
so
just
that
wanted to,
it's not confused with the general
some
fund.
people are, well, sure, we got that much extra, because you
Yeah,
brought that up.
no, we subtracted that from the
I
general
just wanted to
fund.
make that a point.
So we're talking real dollars, yeah, not a gift.
Thank you.
Okay, but important point, thank you for that. Last thing, I will be, shall we say, not in the office, starting tomorrow. And I will return on July 25th. And the acting city manager will be Ashley Coronado, who will very capably call me if anything goes wrong. And so I feel very confident that so many things have gone well financially in the last year and in a lot of other ways, that I have these people can run this place without me around for a couple weeks. So anyway, just so that you know, and I did send out an email to your city email address, so you have the details.
I have an office for 2 weeks.
Feel free, if you can operate that computer without intervention from Ashley.
I don't touch that.
That's all I have there.
All right, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I second.
And a motion second to adjourn, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, so moved, we are adjourned.
Let's just